everyone, and welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. So much to talk about today with so many Pokemon regionals happening and a bunch of other news, and I can't wait to dive into it. My name is Sierra Dawn, joined here by my co-host, Joe Brown. How are we doing this week? How are you feeling?
I'm doing great, having a lot of fun. Posting online the job I was working on for October and November. Finally, my episode aired, so that stress is over. I got to see the finished product. It's not in my hands anymore, so I can just relax and enjoy it now. So for me, I'm definitely relaxing this week. The other thing that's also great is we got to say this because as of recording, Sarah, we still got time. I'm sure it's going to be Thursday by the time this goes up, but it is currently Wolf Glick's birthday. I think we should just throw a little happy birthday to Wolf out there.
I don't have an Incineroar plushie nearby. How am I supposed to wish him a happy birthday?
Oh my god. For anyone who didn't see, Wolf said all he wants for his birthday is for Incineroar to not come back. And then the Pokemon Twitter account replied to him. It was like, how do we break it to him? And they were sad that Incineroar gift. That was so savage.
If whoever is running that Pokemon account, do you have to give them some kudos? Because I've seen some fire responses from that account. I cracked up. I did screenshot that and post it in a couple of groups I'm in. That was pretty good. So he won't have his birthday wish come true. I hope he had a second one backed up just in case there. But yeah, we have a lot of things to talk about today. Wolf's Glick birthday, a couple of regionals, a DLC announcement that of course is going to be coming out 3 hours before our podcast airs, because again, they hate us. I swear they planned this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point they're like, oh, okay, Thursdays at noon. Okay, boys, we're gonna throw it Thursday at 9 a.m. Can't do a Friday 9 a.m. like lead into the weekend or something so we can talk about it. Nope, they just want to make us wait for it, and then it's not even timely 6 days later when we talk about it, because everybody's already talked about the DLC.
Yeah, right. We're gonna be like super late to the news, and we're also to the point where the DLC is coming out really soon. The DLC will be coming out when the next episode of OHKO airs. Yeah. But we won't have a chance to play the DLC beforehand, so that it's like, oh yeah, the DLC release, but we can't talk about it because we'll have recorded this 2 days before. The struggles, man. Anyone who doesn't know to podcast or do content, they'll have it lucky. This is stressful.
So that means we're not going to be able to give our thoughts on the DLC until the 21st, which is a Thursday. I'm looking at the calendar right now. But fortunately, at least one of us has at least gotten their hands on a portion of the Part 2 DLC, and that one of us is not me. So, Sierra, take it away with your adventure with the into the Blueberry Academy, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, so long story short, I did get invited out to New York right before LAIC, actually. I had to take an extended layover on my flight to LAIC so I could stop in New York, take like an hour-long train into the city, play the DLC, hour-long train back, head out. But I got to do a little preview of the DLC. I got to first experience the kind of like the welcome portion into the DLC, where they bring you into the academy, you meet the director. The dialogue that I skipped through really fast, despite the fact it was a preview, and I probably should have read a little bit more of it, but whatever. And then I got to do the first Elite Four fight. So I really dove into exactly what I encountered on my YouTube. But all things considered, and anyone who's listened to the podcast, I'm probably like the number one hater, even though I'm just trying to be honest here. I'm actually really excited for the DLC. I do think it has a lot of potential. The double battles seem really cool. The Elite Four seems sick. I think it should be really good.
Now, I'm very excited. I watched your video that you uploaded to YouTube on it, and I'm excited because I'm just like lazy and didn't read it before, or I just forgot that it's going to be a bunch of double battles, right? So that was like news to me when I was watching your video. I was like, oh, that's awesome, because the problem, and I don't want to say a problem as in negative, but one of the problems we've had in the past when double battles are in the traditional playthrough of Pokemon games is they come out of left field and it's for one battle. It's like a one and done scenario, right? So you don't really change your team around, and oftentimes it'd be like you and Hop or you and Hal or like you and Cheryl like as your teammate, right? So it's not like you're controlling both Pokemon. I know like shiny hunters and nuzlockers, like they knock out their own teammates first, like when they're playing with Cheryl in Platinum, instead of having them there because you don't want them to ruin the RNG of trying to catch stuff. But what I like about this DLC is that since it is so central and focused on double battles, that you can actually adapt your team for that. Because like if you play one random double battle when you're playing through Scarlet and Violet, like all right, whatever, I'm not going to change my 6 for it. But like I might have a supportive Pokemon that like, I don't know, sets the sun, and then have a chlorophyll Pokemon next to it, like just as a core, because I know that I'm going to be facing a lot of double battles coming up, or like something like a Whimsicott with lowering with like, I don't know, with Tailwind, and then like I have a slower Pokemon next to it. Like that's a strategy. If I was playing through normally, I would never have Tailwind on my Whimsicott in a regular playthrough, right? But in this strategy, like I might have it on there. So I'm really excited for this double battle feature.
Yeah, my biggest issue with double battles is not only have they been out of left field, but when we've had them, they also have just previously sucked. So I'm thinking back to Sword and Shield with Raihan. I'm probably mispronouncing that. But first off, it was kind of out of left field. You did get a little bit of warning of, oh, this trainer likes to focus in double battles. But it was still one-off battle that you could then brute force with your regular team. And it still just wasn't the most impressive battle.
And he also had multiple not dragon types as the dragon type gym leader.
Yeah,
but
that's a whole other issue.
He had Gigalith as a dragon type. I'm like, all right, I'll play along, Raihan.
He's trying his best. He's trying his best. But with the DLC, of course, the NPCs out in the wild. I only faced one. The team was pretty weak. There was like a Diglett. It had Arena Trap, kind of annoying. My Pokemon were amazing. I think I had like Meowscarada a Talonflame lead. Smoked him.
Nice.
But when the Elite Four, I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. This is coming from somebody who, I mean, you just heard me slam on Raihan like less than a minute ago for lackluster strategy. I have been very open that Gita's strategy has been less than subpar.
Yeah.
And just a couple of things that really could make the Pokemon more competitive haven't been acted on. The Elite Four actually was a really big difference to that. There was legitimate VGC strategies in there. It actually seemed a lot smarter. It seemed like it was very deliberate. So I'm pretty excited. It was only the one fight. I didn't even win the fight. There's still 3 other trial members. I don't know. I think it actually could be really good. And I'm really hoping tomorrow there is the announcement of a battle tower. I feel like Blueberry Academy was made for it. And even in the one trailer, you can see the battleground, and then there's someone in the background with a little gate. The gates that in any online battle frontier, battle tower type thing is where they send out trainers. I'm so certain there's going to be like a double battle tower coming out.
I would hope so. I mean, it makes the most sense since they're trying to focus on doubles. I also think it's smart to kind of evolve this DLC with doubles, because most people who just play the storylines, they just play singles their whole time, right? So they're not really thinking with a double strategy or a doubles brain, and it could, who knows, maybe some kid, little Timmy with his Charizard, like he decides to put Torkoal next to his Charizard in his glue, exactly, and he's like, oh wow, this is really cool, maybe I will check out VGC. Like I would have to imagine the number of people that get interested in playing doubles after this DLC is more than 0, right? Like they have to expect that this will help with interest in the competitive circuit. So I think that's going to be what I'm saying. I mean, it's pretty nice to know that you lost, that you got stomped in the first Elite Four match, because they're actually just going to
stomped.
I heard it was a 6-0. I heard it was 6-0 actually. I heard
Unreal, slanderous. I used a Max Revive
Gigi was close
on
though.
a
Is that what
bad
you're
Pokemon because they called time on me, and then I lost a second time because like I picked the wrong Pokemon. I played bad.
Wow,
I was also
imagine
unprepared. It's fine.
imagine losing to a computer and being like, "Oh, GG was close though." That's you. That's you right now.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I would like to counter back with Cynthia champion fight. You
But
lost to the computer before.
the hardest champion fight of all time. Yeah, statistically the hardest
And I'm
champion
saying
battle
this
in
was a
Pokemon
hard
history.
fight. This
Bro,
was
it's not harder than Cynthia.
Cynthia is just over-leveled Pokemon that are strong. I
Not
am
true.
saying the Elite Four fight that they had legitimate strategies. You know,
Not
it's not
only
as perfect as if you go up against like Wolf Glick or Ray Rizzo, but like there was legitimate strategies in here that you would see in VGC. Like it was good. It was good.
First of all, to protect the great name of Cynthia here, she is statistically the most difficult trainer, not just because of over leveling, but statistically with her 6 Pokemon. If we go back to Gen 4, before Togekiss was a fairy type, and all this, and fairies existed, so Spiritomb had no weakness. Gastron was only weak to grass, even if it's 4 times, and Garchomp's only weak to ice, essentially, in Dragon, but there weren't a lot of dragons that you could have used in Gen 4. So she statistically had the least amount of weaknesses of any champion ever. So she was actually the hardest to beat because she did not have weaknesses on the team. There's not a lot of great grass types out there. She had a Rindoberry anyway for the grass boot. Like it was actually a tough battle, all right?
I'm okay. I am just telling you though that there was deliberate choice in the moveset, the Pokemon, and the item choices. So it's not like, oh, the Cynthia fight had deliberate thought and this one didn't. Like, I'm actually like, we're gonna have to revisit this conversation once the DLC comes out, because I guarantee anyone who takes a regular playthrough team, I beat Cynthia with a regular playthrough team. I lost to Amari's with a regular playthrough team because I didn't have a counter to the strategy because there was strategy used. Like we have to revisit this.
Okay, we shall revisit.
I promise you. Like this is good stuff. Like I am very willing to put my life on the line to just be honest about my thoughts of the game. I have gotten more quotes, retweets than anyone for saying that Gen 6 was the best generation of Pokemon. I will risk it all. And I'm telling you, like, this fight was good. And that was the first fight. Like, this should be harder than Cynthia.
That's high praise. So I guess we'll have to wait a week to see if it's true. And are we even gonna be able to beat the DLC? Because like, I guess I could download it and then play it on the plane. Because like we got regionals coming up and stuff like the same weekend. It's gonna be tough.
My favorite part of this is the timing. I don't get to go to San Antonio to compete or to cast, but I'm going to work another event. But the event's over the weekend, so same as Pokemon. But they're having a media day to film content about players and stuff, which is happening the same day the DLC comes out. So it's not even a, hey, I can play the DLC on the plane and be all good. I will be actively working during that, and I'm so
brutal
sad for the timing, because then not being able to play it on release day, I'm going to be busy the entire weekend, and then I'm flying back home to see my family. When do I get to play the DLC, man?
I don't know. Ask your mom to shiny hunt for you while you're busy.
I don't think she's tried to shiny hunt since she didn't. I think autosave screwed her, and she caught a shiny Dondozo. She was very happy, and she lost it somehow. And I searched through her file. I actually scrubbed through every single Pokemon. It's legitimately gone. And she hasn't really tried to shiny hunt past that. She's kind of done.
I think she deserved it for trying to get a shiny Dondozo. I think it was deserved to lose it.
She didn't know VGC. She didn't know that we hate Dondozo. She just thought it was a cool looking Pokemon that has a really bright shiny, you know?
That's fair. That's fair.
It's a shame. Oh, maybe the DLC can get her back into shiny hunting. I don't know if she's played the DLC yet. I tried to give her a code. I don't know if she's like played it, but she could be too busy with Animal Crossing.
Oh, I haven't played Animal Crossing in so long, and I feel so guilty about it. But then at like the same time, all of those slackers don't take care of the town when I'm gone. You know what I mean? So like, why can't they pull them up by their bootstraps and like they get rid of the leaves and they chop down some of the trees and all the stuff? Just because I'm on a break, I'm on hibernation in my house. Like, why can't the other villagers pick up the slack for a bit?
Actually, facts. My biggest issue with Animal Crossing is the last time I went on a super like hyperfixation and only played Animal Crossing for a week straight, didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't do anything productive in my life. I made my island beautiful. As much as I neglected the rest of my life, the effort showed in Animal Crossing. I'm not gonna lie. It's stunning.
My life was a mess, but my island was sensational.
I had custom paths to every house. I customized the yard around everyone. It is stunning. I'm gonna have to send you pictures. But now I don't know what to do in Animal Crossing because I can't touch this area at all because it's immaculate. It's perfect. Like, where do I go from there?
I beat in Animal Crossing. I didn't know it was possible, but
Yeah. Even going to my town, it is still perfect. I
guess you just like
myself.
You just have to keep making fun little projects for yourself. So like, you kind of like life, you know, like you gotta think of something new. Oh, okay, I planted tomatoes this season. Okay, next season I'll plant some, you know, broccoli or something like that. Like,
if that's the only thing I'm doing in my life, just like, please no, like that is so. I'm just gonna boot up Animal Crossing every day, harvest my tomatoes, plant some broccoli, and like close out and be like, that was a productive use of my time.
But we do that in real life too. Some days, like, you know, you have a Saturday, you clean out the garage, and you know you have a laundry day. Like, that's just sometimes. It's just some days are chore days, and it's just how it is.
Y'all should see the state of my house.
I feel like most of the time I spent in the new Animal Crossing was just like, I was just like this, trying to get those spiders on those islands. The tarantulas, you know what I'm talking about? And just like barely creeping up. And like, you know, I think if, let's say I spent 200 hours playing Animal Crossing, I think at least 100 of those hours I was like this.
Honestly, good use of your time. Good use of your time. The money hack I do is always like resetting to summer nights and then just going along the beach where I've planted a million palm trees and catching the beetles. And then I'm like, this is so just redundant. But then I sell all the beetles and I get a lot of money. And it's like, all right, maybe it's kind of worth it. And I just keep doing that over and over. But then the catalog never has anything good. So I never buy anything good. So the money kind of goes to waste. I don't know.
There was one day during COVID, because me and all my friends, we were all playing it. I had a turnip stock exchange day that was like, it was like $850, you know, dollars or something per turnip. It was the highest I'd ever seen in my life. And I put it, like, I just, you know, turned my switch on, left my gate open. Like, my switch was on fire at the end of the day. It was burning with how many people kept, like, and every time somebody comes, it pauses and you go black screen and somebody comes in, and like, it was truly like a 12-hour day. Like, I worked a you know, 8-hour shift with overtime, just keeping my island open for strangers on the internet and then some of my friends to to exchange their turnips. It was like the craziest day of my life.
See, I'm an old school Animal Crossing player. Like, I played back on like GameCube or whatever, on like the DS. The amount of times I've bought turnips and have had them all spoil.
Oh,
I did not touch the turnip market the second it came out on Switch.
You can't do that. You can't spoil them.
People would post on Twitter like, oh, who has turnip prices today? Of course, during the height of COVID, when no one else had anything better to do. Who has turnip prices today? Who has this? My mom would ask me about stuff with Animal Crossing. I'm like, I ain't touching this. Not with a 10-foot pole. I've spent so much money on turnips and they have all spoiled. I'm not even willing to get into this. I will not entertain it.
No, I can understand you feel bad. You know, you've lost out on profits in the past, but no, I'm a big, ever since the original on GameCube, and then like City Folk, the Wii version, was actually my favorite Animal Crossing of all time. Like, I remember I literally, I was a high school student at that point. I think freshman, sophomore, or something like that. and like on Christmas Eve, like turning Animal Crossing on to try to catch Santa. He's like the reindeer or whatever with the thing, and then like in the new one, the Switch one, like on New Year's Eve as the countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, like I was logged into my Switch in town with Tom Nook and the gang and everybody in the town square getting ready for the fireworks. KK Slider came to visit and everything. Like I was celebrating the new year with my friends.
I did just recently buy City Folk for the Wii. I haven't played that one.
It's so good, dude.
We have a local game shop here that me and Ugarte love going to, and they actually had a copy, so I did pick it up. I haven't played it yet, but I am excited for it, especially too. And maybe you could speak a little bit better to this. I felt like the DS version, GameCube version, were a lot nicer than the Switch version. Like the Switch version, you can customize the island. There is so much to do. But I remember on the DS going up to my townsfolk every day, trying to get more conversations and to try and build connections because I wanted the pictures, and I had a room in my house with all of the portraits that they'd give me, and it seemed a lot more personable in this way, whereas the Switch kind of seems, I don't know, a little bland and lifeless.
I don't think I wouldn't disagree with you at all. I think the personalities are really poor on the Switch. That happens when they make more characters, right? They just become one note. I think back in the day, even though because the old characters always had archetypes, right? You're always the sassy one or the sporty one or the elegant or whatever their categories were called in Animal Crossing, but they just use that as a starting point for the villager's character. So like this guy is always arrogant, like the bald eagle sporty USA guy, I forget his name, right? And like that was just his basis, was that category he fell under. But then he still had a character underneath it with his quips and whatever jokes that whatever have back and forth. So like I'm definitely into your camp that the Switch characters were super hollow compared to old games. That's why I don't understand people paying like thousands of dollars to get the freaking cat with glasses to be on their island.
Was it a Bob or something?
No, oh my god, what was his name? I forget, but everybody loved him. They wanted him so bad.
Let's see how this goes. Cat with
glasses, Animal Crossing.
I was kind of tempted to hit enter before the it was Raymond.
Raymond, yeah, such a nerd. Everybody was freaking out over this dude paying real life money to get him to come to their island. It's like, chill out.
You know what Raymond looks like?
Loki?
No, for Valorant fans out there, he looks like Chamber.
Oh, okay. With the glasses.
No. If you opened up a chat BT and just put Chamber, Valorant, and Animal Crossing cat form, it would spit out a picture of Raymond. I know we're getting into super you have to know. We're on a Pokemon podcast.
For sure.
And I'm like, you need to know this Valorant character and this Animal Crossing character. But I promise you, if you know both of these, it's actually immaculate. Even the pose, the attitude, and how he's acting.
I would imagine the crossover between Pokemon and Animal Crossing is like those two, the Venn diagram is like almost a circle. You know what I mean?
We're looking at Valorant and Animal Crossing.
Well, yeah, but that's you with your Valorant thing. That's, that's the side.
No, I need one person here. I need one person.
I had a moment. I still think about it to this day. What are we, 3+ years later? 3.5 years later. That I think her name was Pinky or something like that. She was a pink gorilla on my island, right? And she dressed up like Elton John, like Rocket Man style thing. And if anyone has seen The Villager, they'll know who I'm talking about. Doesn't matter. She's a pink gorilla. And excuse me, her thing is she wanted to be a pop star. She wanted to, just make it in the world as a singer and all these things. And I was just like, whatever. She's big, dumb gorilla. She looks silly in her Rocket Man outfit. And I never took care of her or whatever. And then one day she said she wanted to leave. And I felt so bad. And it wasn't like, you can be mean to a villager on purpose to get them to leave. I never did any of that. I just left her to her own devices, right? And the part of me was like, no, I like Pinky on my island. I want her to stay. But then when you read the dialogue and she's like, I want to go out in the world and I want to make a name for myself and I want to become a singer and I can't do that here on this island. I want to move on. I was like, I have to do what's best for her in the spot. Even though I want to keep her in the village, keep her in the island, I had to do what's best for her and I had to let her go. And it's 3 years later, I still feel it.
It be like that. It really, really do
It really
be like
do
that.
be. It really do be.
On the flip side of the coin, I switched my cat with glasses Animal Crossing search to cats with glasses. Does not disappoint. Does not disappoint. No. This is pretty good. The fluffy white cat with cool glasses. I gotta send this one to you. It's pretty.
Let me see.
It is so good. Anyone here listening, just Google fluffy white cat with cool glasses. All right, this is a good one. Joe Brown can back me up here. Look at this cat. Look at this cat. He's so cool.
He is Joe Cool right there. That kid.
He is so cool. All right, he's got such cool glasses. Anyways, this is a Pokemon podcast.
Anywho's.
Yeah. We do talk about Pokemon once in a while, and there is so much Pokemon stuff.
I think our audience liked the break, honestly. I think they liked the little tangent that we just took down Animal Crossing lane. Are you saying they hate
Pokemon?
No, I think that they're here for us first and foremost, Sierra. Okay, don't forget that they want to hear us talking about our Pokemon experiences and having fun or whatever. And they're invested in the pod. So when they put their headphones on every Thursday at noon, or sometimes if it's late because we upload the wrong episode accidentally, it'd be like that sometimes.
Whoa! Drive by, foul on the play. What is this?
They just they're here to be a part of the pod with us, part of the conversation. So if we take a 15-minute Animal Crossing tangent, I don't think they're going to complain. That's all I'm going to say.
I'd complain. This is a Pokemon podcast. Simply put. There was, speaking of Pokemon, not one, but 2 regionals that we couldn't talk about last weekend. These regionals are coming fast. There's even, isn't it Stuttgart that's happening this upcoming weekend?
I believe you. I don't know.
There's a regional.
Lot going on. There's so much I noticed happening. That. I believe Stuttgart is coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a regional happening this weekend. So, but yeah, 2 happened. We didn't talk about them last week because there's so much to talk about with LAIC. But there was the Brisbane regional as well as the Gdańsk regional. So, which one do we want to dive into first? I think Brisbane technically wrapped first,
that's where I was going to go here, Sierra, because technically in order of events, the Brisbane one finished first, and it finished with unfortunate news, as Hisui and Arcanine did not win the regional. And I think a lot of people were very upset about it online. Everyone's becoming very invested in this Hisui and Arcanine storyline, and people trying to delegitimize the Brisbane regional and it's not enough players and blah, blah, blah. And no, I'm sorry. In my opinion, a regional is a regional. And there were 200 players. It was like 190 or something like that. So it's not like there were 15. It wasn't a PC or something like that. Like it's not what we get in other events, but that's a sizable amount of people for Hisui and Arcanine to not have been the winner. So I do think it counts and the streak has been broken.
I definitely, when you're looking at, because the whole thing is, Hisui and Arcanine has won X regionals in a row. I feel just on that note, obviously you can't dismiss Brisbane. I do think it's really funny when people are like, oh, well, no, Brisbane doesn't count. There was 2 Armarouge and Didi in top 4. There is a Clefable in top 8, a Como in top 8. We can't count this. This is too wacky. That kind of just adds a little comedy to it. There was actually not a single Hisui and Arcanine. There was exactly 1 Hisui and Arcanine in top 8 in exactly the 8th place. So
brutal.
This regional was not too kind to it overall.
And so, just looking at, we can talk about the different teams on, in the top 8 and maybe some of the things that stand out to us. Like I see excuse me, Hisui and what's his face? The Gudra got 10th at this event. Yuki, shout out to Yuki. But we can talk like what led Arcanine to not winning this event, and is it those two Armarouge and DD teams? Like there's a lot of Trick Room. You had the silly Clefable Gilmora strategy also from Daniel Walker. Like, so why wasn't Australia on the good boy train?
So I feel like the answer that maybe some people would give you when you ask that is claiming that like regionals that are smaller are a little bit more Mickey Mouse. I would disagree with that. I don't think that's necessarily fair to the caliber of the player base out there. I will say that normally you're only looking at one intimidator on a team, and when you're looking at the top 8, there is 5 Landorus out there. So kind of valuing that instead, considering that you don't want both of them on the same team. They can compete for kind of the same role. But Landorus does give you access to Terra Flying with Choice Scarf once you Terra Blast, and can actually output pressure that way, which gives a lot more respect to things like Amoonguss in the format, which had 4 of them in top 8. Obviously in NA, I feel like Amoonguss has been pretty disrespected. And with that Amoonguss disrespect, you don't necessarily have to have the same check in the form of a Landorus with Terra Flying Terra Blast, which then allows you Hisuian Arcanine, which can match up better into other things. You do have Flare Blitz, but still the amount of recoil and everything else. But Landorus just seems to be kind of where they want to be playing out there. As well, there is always each region does different things. Like if the experience that you have is going to locals in your area and Hisuian Arcanine's going to get wrecked, or Landorus is just better. Like there's little micro formats, little micro metas that kind of come out.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on like different regional variances in the metagame and stuff. Like Lewis Tan's second place team that has Dusclops with no real clear Trick Room sweeper on it, right? Sure, Amoonguss and Iron Hands are slow Pokemon that can be in Trick Room, but it's really just meant to be more of a nuisance than being paired next to, say, a Blood Moon Ursaluna or next to a Hatterene or something like that, and trying to, or Torkoal, and trying to make them pop off. Well, I noticed with these Landers teams, a lot of them have Heatran. One has Hearthflame, Ogerpon Hearthflame. So like maybe it was just they valued what Ogerpon Hearthflame or Heatran could bring to the team, and then since they already had a fire type that didn't want to bring Hisuian Arcanine, so that's where the Landers comes in more clutch, because the Arcanine hardly ever actually clicks Flare Blitz if you think about it, right? Like most of the time it's clicking Rock Slide or E-Speed if you're going for the Choice Band set. So just because Arcanine has good typing into Amoonguss doesn't mean that how it's positioned on the field, it can actually one-shot the Amoonguss if it's choice locked into E-Speed or Rock Slide, where I would say Landorus, like 75% of the times you bring Landorus to a game, you are going to Terra Flying and Terra Blast into the Amoonguss and the Rillaboom and all the other grass types that you'd have to deal with. So, yeah, it is a bummer that the streak was broken. But if we do look at Nicholas Khan's team here, it does seem pretty like general good stuff. So the one thing I note is that it is Terra Grass Heatran instead of Terra Fairy. With that Life Orb set, Heatwave, Flashkin, and Earth Power Protect. And when I was casting the quarterfinals of the Victory Road World Cup last weekend as well, and every Heatran we had on set or on stream last weekend was Terra Grass as well. So I think that's an interesting meta development to note, that a lot of times they are now straight up going back to that grass typing compared to the Terra Fairy, which was like just a more generally neutral defensive Terra, where grass is obviously a flash fire and an anti-Amoonguss synergy. So I think that's like the big thing on Nick's team, to me at least, that notes out, is that it's Terra Grass Heatran. But the rest of it, and then follow me on Ogerpon Wellspring, which I do think most people have come to terms with that fourth move on the Wellspring form being supportive, whether it be Taunt or Follow Me or something else. Like people have not been running Swords Dance as much on the Ogerpon Wellspring form.
I feel like too, when you have a team like Nicholas Khan's, like if you're not having that Follow Me, if you're going up against a Urshifu Rapid Strike, It kind of gets to be a little bit difficult. The
Yeah,
Heatran
Landorus,
drops to it.
Heatran, and Terrafire Iron Hands. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and Fluttermane, I mean, its defensive is what to say the least. So I feel like in that case, when you're running a team like this, you're kind of forced into running that follow me, even if it's not necessarily a situation you're always going to be getting up in front of an Urshifu. There's always that pressure and something that has to be respected. Um, so I do think that is the right call there. It is definitely interesting about the Terra Grass on the Heatran. I do think too, though, it's nice when obviously the field that is Australia is a lot more Landorus heavy with the Stomping Tantrum. It's not only going to be a check to an Amoonguss, but also a check into like these ground types that can be firing off into it. And I think it's just like a really strong typing in general, even into other hits that are going around out there. So I definitely like it. Fairy kind of seems like a safe catch-all. Grass is very, very just you're not doing anything against it for quite a few very pivotal types out there.
Yeah, I was huge into the, Grass Terra Heatran, as you know, like I talked about it in the starter regulation D, and I was like, it's the best Pokemon in the format, and everyone thought I was crazy. But in my defense, regulation D did not have Ogerpon Hearthflame that has Mold Breaker and can absolutely dumpster you as Heatran if you're a grass type. So maybe that's another thing here, Sierra, is that the Ogerpon usage is kind of dipped from like 80% across the two water and fire forms to probably now it's probably maybe combined like 55%, 60% for those two forms. So you're more comfortable locking in that grass typing because there's less Ogerpons with Mold Breaker on the other side.
Looking through the list, I'm just kind of casually going through and seeing what pops out, what's interesting. Henry Rich getting Brambleghast to a decent finish here.
Okay.
15th place. That is a Brambleghast that is not on a Tornadus team. There is a Rory Moon that has access to Tailwind. Obviously, that's not priority, though. So I think that's kind of a little cute, a little quirky. Corviknight from Jesse Beard. That's a Dragon Terra Mirror Armor Lumberry Corviknight. Bulk Up
Ooh.
Roost. I love that. Also, Inji Wang with a Chandelure on his team with Trick Room
Wow.
for the Blood Moon Ursaluna. So that's not the Trick Room setter that I necessarily get to see, but hey,
That's
is cute.
that's pretty interesting because like Chandelure has like 80 speed or something, so it's in that middle tier. It's not like it's crazy slow the way that Dusclops or some of the other slower Pokemon can be, but obviously it worked out for Bingji with this Ursaluna next to it. I also have been like I just still have not been the person that likes Blood Moon or Saluna just in general compared to other like special attackers I can use in the format. Like I know it can hit ghost types, which is really nice, but like hitting neutral damage doesn't a lot of times like knock out things. Like yes, it's better than doing no damage, but just clicking the hyper voice and doing 30% to a ghost type doesn't actually help as much as being able to hit it with the heavy slam from Iron Hands would be, the Fluttermane I'm talking about. So that's pretty cool team. I like that it's Terra Poison on his Urshifu, because it's Urshifu Dark, the single strike, and I think a lot of times people will just use Urshifu like King Gambit and they go Terra Dark, Black Glasses, Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, that's all you do. But like I think one, it's a legendary, so it has higher BST, so it has better bulk to it. And like you can get away with Terra Poison because you always crit with Wicked Blow. Like King Gambit does not always crit with Kowtow Cleave. So you don't need to, in my opinion, I don't think you need to run Black Glasses or Dread Plate if you're feeling fancy. And Terra Dark. Like I hope that there are more Terra Poison or Shifus out there in tournaments.
I'm looking, there's a 21st place team by, and I'm so sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. I swear I'm trying my best. Divan Bana. 21st place. Underneath it says the name that was used was Benson. But playing in Snowgy Dogi like Okie and a Snow team. Alolan Ninetales, Baxcalibur, Iron Bundle, Okie Heatran, and Rillaboom, which this is kind of quirky. Snow is... I still just have a soft spot for any Snow team out there.
Yeah,
I'm not
this
gonna
is
lie.
right up your alley, right? Because didn't you also play Okie at a PC?
Yes, I played it at a couple of PCs. I didn't play it with Snow. I played it with Grimmsnarl screens, but I did play Okie. I don't think it was necessarily the greatest at points, but I will say, when I had a good matchup, I had a good matchup. Like, I'm just sitting there, like, you literally can't touch this dog, and I'm just clicking bulk up over and over. Ugarte's, like, watching from a distance over my shoulder. Afterwards, is telling me, like, you click bulk up, like, 3 more times than you needed to. You could have just taken the KO, and it's like, it didn't do anything to me anyways.
Yeah.
I'm clicking bulk up over and over. But, yeah, it definitely works when it works. You need it behind screens, hence the Snow. But I just like Alolan Ninetales and Blizzardy stuff, honestly.
Join the club, all right? I've been a Alolan Ninetales lone supporter since 2017. Well, me and Sam Pandelis, but Iron Bundle with Taunt. This is really nice because he's Javon's just like, I'm not missing Hydro Pump. My 4th move, it'll be Icy Wind, Freeze Dry, and Taunt, which makes a lot of sense because Iron Bundle is essentially the fastest thing after the booster energy. So you can ensure without a fake out, and you have Terra Ghost to stop fake out, that like you will be able to taunt whatever you want to stop. So this is a a team with a certain strategy, and you gotta respect how this team came to be. Like, I don't know how their matchups played out, but you can imagine 21st, a top 32 for this type of team, definitely is okay, that makes sense. I don't know if this kind of core 3 ice types in Okie could crack into the top 8 as currently constructed. I don't know if they had a win-in scenario in that last round or something like that, but 21st, I think that's about the ceiling you could probably get out of this core.
See, I'm very curious about the Iron Bundle because I do think having Taunt on what's most likely a speed booster energy Iron Bundle, it's already speedy. Booster energy to furthermore increase its speed. Having that Taunt, I think, is just so impactful. But I kind of like having Hydro Pump as well. I feel like that coverage that Hydro Pump offers, if you can connect it, is super, super valuable.
That's,
and just
that's
kind of,
the if.
I know, that's the if. But that off puts so much pressure in comparison to Pokemon that maybe don't feel threatened by an Icy Wind or a Freeze Dry. And Taunt is great to have in situations where it works. But there's also going to be times where it doesn't work. And now you're having 2 of the same move type and then nothing else. I feel like that's very much so a 5-move syndrome Pokemon.
Yeah.
Just in that case. Because I do think that Taunt probably did provide good utility. I think it's so nice. But, man, I'm looking at all
sure.
the Pokemon
I agree with you. I think we're in the...
to a Hydro
I think
Pump.
we're in the same boat on
it's
it's almost like a
high.
one-note strategy if you have 3 ice types on your team, and that might work out well, right? Especially if you face a lot of Landorus, which it appears in Australia there were a lot of Landorus there, but I'm just looking back at top 8. Sierra, let's go over these 2 Armorers teams just for my own selfishness because I'm a big fan. So the first one in 3rd place was Vivek, or Fearless as they're categorized on Victory Road, with I would say just a more generally adapted version of an Armorers and DD Trick Room team compared to Connor Bett's 4th place team, which feels kind of like the 2-2-2 line, but just Trick Room, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the 4th place team, there is non-Trick Room options because you're having a way with the Sun, with the Hisuian Lilligant with the Torkoal, so you have after you with the Chlorophyll to kind of enable anything. But you could also just kind of go for that Trick Room mode with your Armorers or Indeedee. The Regidrago is Choice Scarf, so it's kind of there's half the team that exists outside, and half of it that exists in. That feels like a nasty team to be playing a 50-50 on the lead in. Like that does not seem fun.
Yeah, I'm just because like, what would the 4 if you don't bring Trick Room, right? Because obviously your Trick Room core is probably Armorage and Didi, Torkoal, or Saluna, right? So then would that mean that in a non-Trick Room match it'd be Torkoal, Lilligant lead with like Regidrago and Didi in the back or something like that? I'm trying to figure out how this team it is definitely operates in both versions, and clearly Connor did well getting top 4 with it. I'm trying to figure out what the non-Trick Room 4 is.
I'd imagine in DD, in all honesty, Psychic Surge, so the Regidrago doesn't get like a priority hit against it.
Yeah.
Something that would actually outspeed it then with the Choice Scarf, even though Regidrago isn't the fastest Pokemon out there. You have Follow Me to take away hits from the Regidrago, considering you have Dragon Energy, so you don't actually want your HP bar to go down because Dragon Energy, being a spread damage based on the amount of HP you have, can do massive amount of damage. As well as Rocky Helmet to be kind of taking those hits with the Follow Me. Like, I feel like that would be the perfect fourth to those other Pokemon.
Yeah. And like obviously we know how frustrating regular Lilligant is. So I think Hisuian Lilligant is better than the regular version. Like it's a little bit faster. The fighting typing gives you close combat. So like, regular Lilligant doesn't have close combat. We haven't seen too much success, I don't believe, in most of Regulation D and E out of the Torkoal Lilligant strategy. Like, I don't know how that's going to change over time. Like, I know, we could just use Ninetales in this set, or one day when Miraidon comes around, maybe Miraidon Lilligant can have some work. But of course, by the time that happens, Venusaur will be back. So Lilligant's time in the sun will have run out when Venusaur comes back.
Time in the sun. I see what you did there.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. Thank you.
That's a good one. I had to make sure everyone caught on to that. But yeah, the issue with like the Lilligant Torkoal team with like this Trick Room is I feel like the amount of momentum you take from lead is going to be super, super important into the match. And you could just get absolutely bodied if your opponent outleads you, or if there's a weather mode. Like if you go all in on, hey, here's my Lilligant Torkoal, so many Tornadus nowadays run Rain Dance. Not even to counter Sun, like
just for their own Urshifu, yeah.
Yeah, but then there is a built-in counter on a lot of teams that they have that could be going up against you, so then you're kind of forced into Trick Room, but then you're not really catching anyone off guard. They could lead appropriately into you. Like, there's so much going up against the team, and I feel like it has to be so predictable in play pattern. Like, even when I was playing Sun with my Sun Slitherwing team back in the day, it felt bad on the account of you always had to bring Torkoal if you want the Sun. Simply put, there is one of my 4 Pokemon that always has a slot taken. And Torkoal, if you're not then committing to that Trick Room setting, kind of feels a little bad. It's absolutely terribly slow. Eruption is nice, but if you're acting last, you get a hit, it kind of sucks. And all of a sudden, you can get your weather overridden at any point. It just doesn't feel good.
It's for sure the thing that holds it back more than anything else is not its own viability as a pairing in Torkoal Lilligant. What holds it back the most is that it's best of 3, right? So when you play on Showdown, and if you play the best 1 ladder or versus best of 3 ladder, like you can just lead Torkoal and Didi, and not Torkoal and Didi, although they're on the same team. Like that could be the mind games, right? Like you lead different things and get away with it, and you got me, and I click GG and I get out, or But in a best of 3 setting, it gives people time to adjust. And the other thing that hurts is having Solar Blade compared to Leaf Blade or something. If Tornadus clicks Rain Dance, it's now a 2-turn move, so you can't. I'll just Solar Blade the Urshifu if he's going to do that, but you can't because now it takes 2 turns, and then your Torkoal is going to be in a lot of trouble from the Rain Dance Urshifu on the other side. So, I think that's also probably why Venusaur is better in general, since it doesn't get intimidated, which I know from experience, Intimidate is one of the most frustrating things that hurts Hisuian Lilligant's viability. And it's not like it's an uncommon thing. You will face an Intimidator probably on 90% of the games you play. But if we look at the other Trick Room team. This is more of just a general Good Stuff's Trick Room team, which I'd be more interested in trying out Vivek's strategy, where Armrouge and Didi, they both have Trick Room, right? You have that, but then it's Choice Scarf Landorus and it's Choice Specs Fluttermane. King Gambit's really the only other Trick Room Pokemon on the team that likes being in Trick Room with the Assault Vest and Terrafire so it can't get burned. And then Ogerpon Wellspring that has Taunt instead of Follow Me, which is pretty cool, because you would imagine you'd want Follow Me so you can get Trick Room set up, but maybe the Taunt helps a little bit better in certain matchups.
Yeah, looking at the team, I still feel like there is the pressure, but I guess having the Follow Me Indeedee with the Rocky Helmet kind of dissuades a Surging Strikes, because you're going to be taking a lot of damage if you hit that Indeedee over and over. I still think the most intriguing part of the team to me is the King Gambit. There is a lot, so King Gambit's kind of been up and down in the meta, and it had its time out there as the Assault Vest version, especially in past regulations when Ugarte was using it, since he's been a big Assault Vest King Gambit person. And then he kind of dropped it, and other individuals, Luca Trejgut was really, really big on using the Black Glasses version of it, and that was kind of the version that was a little bit more widely adopted. Then King Gambit's fallen off again. Only a couple of people are still using it. They get good results with it, but it's just not too common. But then it's really interesting to see that it is the Assault Vest King Gambit here, considering that you can take those special hits so much better. Low kick on it, I think, is really interesting as well, because being able to pressure into other King Gambit is nice, but then how often do you get that opportunity? But I guess, too, it does give you a good answer into, other potential Trick Room teams, considering you could be dealing some massive damage to, their Ursalunas or whatnot to kind of give it some good coverage. I don't mind that.
Well, I think that's the appeal of Assault Vest, right? Is you have room for the low kick, where if you were Black Classes, that fourth slot has to be protect, essentially. So that's one of the trade-offs, and one of the things that's so interesting in team building when you have these conversations, and what do I value? And I value that under Trick Room, Ursaluna as a normal type is going to be so frustrating, and also with King Gambit mirrors, if they don't terastallize, this low kick helps me more than the Black Glasses and protect would help, because King Gambit's not long for the world anyway, right? He's going in, he's clicking buttons, he's trying to get Defiant Boost and try and do damage before it gets knocked out. So you don't need protect if the Assault Vest can help your one kind of bad stat in special defense. Everything else is pretty optimized for the King Gambit. So I can understand. I loved AV. The team that Gabby and I built at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet had AV King Gambit, and I understand the Black Glasses boost. Obviously, Joe was great. He would know King Gambit usage better than me, and Luca top cutting a bunch of events in a row with the Black Glasses version. But I think at my heart, I'm still an AV fan.
So the King Gambit we haven't talked about, and this is a good pivot point to talking about the Gdańsk Regional, is this safety goggles version that Eric Rios was able to pilot to third place at the Gdańsk Regionals that actually happened in the same weekend. There ended up being 2 King Gambits in top 4. The only 2 that were actually in top 8, but I do feel like it's important to distinguish that both of them did make it into top 4. So, it's still proving, hey, those diehard King Gambit players out there, they do work. And I feel like the safety goggles is quite interesting, because that is the one that I have seen the least of.
It definitely makes so much sense, though, when you think about it, because as you've mentioned, the other regions respect the Mungus, so they understand that they're going to face it. And one of the worst things that can happen to a Swords Dance King Gambit is you get set up and you're ready to sucker punch everything to smithereens, and then a Mungus is right next to them, or a Mungus is right next to them, and the Rage Powder stops your entire strategy, essentially. So this is kind of a full defensive option from Eric's King Gambit, if you think about it, with both safety goggles and Terra Poison. That means he's not getting a boost from his item at all, because it's not Choice Band or Life Orb or Black Glasses, and he's not getting a damage boost from the terrestrialization because he's not Terra Dark. So I like that Eric is kind of just has like a general team here with the Rillaboom, Heatran, Ogerpon, and Fluttermane, and then the King Gambit is like specifically, give me a Defiant Boost and I'll wreck your day. And then the Salamence is really cool that we have to talk about. So this is not Justin Tang's Choice Scarf Hurricane Salamence that you put next to Pelipper. This is Rocky Helmet Terra Poison with Air Slash, Draco Meteor, Tailwind, and Roost. And like Salamence with Roost right now and Rocky Helmet, like could you imagine the Urshifu hitting into that slot? Oh my god.
What I like is that it is a Rocky Helmet in comparison to a Choice Scarf. Because even with things and like other people's Salamence sets, the fourth move has been Tailwind, which then forces you to be swapping out if you do press it when you're in a choice item situation. So the fact that Rios can actually click Tailwind, keep the Salamence in, and then hit another move, I think is really, really nice. Because I think the biggest issue I see with the Choice Scarf Salamence version is the hesitancy to actually click into Tailwind, which could benefit your team, because your Salamence is essentially useless until you actually swap it out. So I do really, really like that overall. I just think I like Eric's team. I don't like it quite as much as I like Tom's team, the top four, the other King Gambit team, rocking a Volcarona that's very reminiscent of Paul Ruiz at LAIC.
Yeah, the Volcarona Sinistra combination as well, which is really really good synergy together, because you start out with Volcarona, you get a couple Quiver Dances up, and it's going to take some spread damage and stuff as it's setting up. You bring Sinistra back in later on in the match, having that hospitality, helping boost or recover some of its HP, and then that Rage Pattern is just so good. So I'm happy to see a Sinistra getting top 8. It's the only one in top 8 from Tom Winter here, and I'm not sure what its usage overall was on the day, but just quickly looking in a glance through the rest of Top Cut, I don't really see any other Sinistras, so it's kind of a Pokemon that I don't know how you would feel. Like, are you disappointed with how it's turned up in or resulted in the format? Because I think going into Regulation E and the Kitakami decks, besides the Ogerpon forms, Sinistra was kind of the most hyped up Pokemon, and it really doesn't get too many great performances. Like, it's usually you'll see one in top 8 or maybe like 2 in top 32 or something. So like, what's your take on how Sinistra has landed on the meta?
I think it's really fair for what Sinistra offers, because you compare it to the Ogerpon forms. The Ogerpons are so splashable. You can kind of, like, when you're looking at something like the Ogerpon, the Cornerstone Ogerpon, there is a certain type of team archetype you're building around. But if you look at the Wellspring or the Heart Flame, it feels like it can go on a variety of teams. Whereas if you're running a Sinistra, you need to be hitting a Pokemon that you're wanting healing from with its ability, a spread damage grass move, and Trick Room. Which then, considering that Trick Room is never quite the prevalent archetype in a format, and the fact that it's then not just a Trick Room Pokemon, but something that can't necessarily capitalize off of it the same way that other Pokemon could, it kind of makes sense. Like, I don't feel like Sinistra or Sinistra fans should feel bad with where it's landed, because I think it's getting exactly the results it deserves, considering that it's a little bit more niche than anything else that we kind of see out there.
Yeah, and the thing that hurts it, I think it's around 60 speed or something. I want to say off the top of my head, I can't remember. So it's not like super slow, right? It's not like a Hatterene or a Dusclops, or like when Porygon 2 comes back, or some of these other really slow Trick Room users. So even it's actually going to be it's going to be a nightmare for Sinistra when Incineroar comes back. Oh my god, I don't want to think about it. But the speed tiers when Incineroar, the speed creeping from Iron Hands and King Gambits and things in that area when Incineroar comes back is going to be fascinating to watch. But that's not here. That's for us in a couple of weeks to worry about. Yeah, but it does. Sinistcha is a Pokemon that you cannot splash. It's a great point to say that Ogerpon, you can just whatever. If you don't have a fire type yet, put Hearthflame on. If you don't have a water type yet, put Wellspring Mask on. But like clearly, this Sinistcha is here intended to recover up HP on Iron Hands and Volcarona as they try to kind of handle the rest of the team and sweep through. So it is a Pokemon that you need to have a strategy, and you're like, man, I really want this Pokemon to just survive a little bit longer, and it makes sense.
I want to go back to your Incineroar comment. Not to talk about Incineroar. You don't have to worry about that. We can wait a couple of weeks. But more so when talking about Intimidate users. Because obviously we hit on Brisbane being the regional that Hisuian Arcanine didn't win. And some people are, oh, well, the regional doesn't matter, whatnot. That's the oddball. Especially considering Gdańsk. Hisuian Arcanine did win. Not only that, it was Hisuian Arcanine on both teams in finals. So it was going to win either way. And the Intimidate user of choice was the Arc going into this event. 3 of them in top 8 in comparison to the 2 Landorus that were in top 8. So kind of going back towards the dog is this is the better Intimidate user of choice here.
Yeah, and then obviously Simone with his Simone Chuppa team that he had there, bringing it back to Gdańsk because, hey, why not if it's working out? If it's working for them so well. What did he make the adjustment the same? Yeah, so he does have Life Orb on Chien Pao, where Chuppa made that adjustment for LAIC, and then Icicle Crash instead of Ice Spinner, I think was the other. I forget, we were talking, I remember when we had Chuppa on at LAIC, something changed. So he is running the same adjustment that Chuppa made. Excuse me, to the team. But then looking at some of the other things, there's shout outs to Frederick, the one Moon Room player, you know, getting one little Ursaluna regular form, I don't know what you'd call it, non-Blood Moon, and then Cresselia. Cresselia is a Pokemon I feel like really kind of missed its chance in these last 2 formats. I don't know why it wasn't as popular as I felt it was going to be going into Regulations D and E, but if you look at the set that Frederick had, it is Safety Goggles, Terra Dark, Ice Beam, Ally Switch, Lunar Blessing, and a Trick Room. So the Ally Switch is one of the first brave people I've seen Frederick actually being brave enough to publicly click Ally Switch at a tournament and not get shamed for it this year. So I give you credit for having the confidence, but also, boo for bringing Ally Switch to an event. But, it is what it is.
You can't do them like that. But, hey, are we at the point of celebrating teams at the event that did the cool things?
For sure.
All right. I want to call
out... sorry, Ursaluna has Earthquake. He doesn't have Stomping Tantrum, which I find interesting because the only person immune to it is Cresselia. Usually you would want 2 immunities to have Earthquake, but it obviously worked out for Frederick. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about J.E. Boyd's team. Because first off, he almost made top 8. It came down to resistance, but not even just regular resistance, but the opponent's win percentage or whatever. Super, super close. This madman brought Galarian Articuno with Rocky Helmet. It's Freezing Glare, Terra Blast, it's Terra Ground. I haven't seen that since offensive Earthquake sets with Garchomp back in Regulation A?
And Great Tusk in Regulation B, I guess, right?
Yeah, and then Calm Mind Recover. This is insane. Also, really cool adjustments with a lot of stock in the fact that I would believe that it would be because Dragon type has been really popping up with a key Terra type coming down, since it resists that core water, fire, grass attacks, which helps for all of the Ogerpon, Surging Strikes, a lot of different things. And Boyd has not 1, but 2 different ice moves on his Pokemon. He has Terra Ice Iron Hands with Ice Punch, and then Ice Spinner on her Shifu Rapid Strike.
It's so crazy.
What?
Jamie Boy is living in his own world of VGC. Like he's the protagonist, and we're all just following along because nobody else would come up with these strategies. Like I talked about it before. Like if you paid to get coaching from a professional VGC coach and you threw this six Pokemon at them on Discord, like they would rip it to shreds. They would completely change everything. Excuse me. I don't know why I have to cough so badly, but like they're like, oh, you don't need Ice Spinner because if you just put a Tornadus on the team, then you're doing a lot of damage with the Surging Strikes, and why would you go Terra Ice on the Iron Hands off and you go to click that, like blah 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 blah. Like Jamie has the confidence in himself to be like, no, I can do wacky things and get away with it.
Yeah, which I think is just crazy because I don't even feel like the coverage moves that Urshifu has is necessarily stuff that I feel so confident dropping. I guess the close combat, a lot of Iron Hands run Drain Punch. The Iron Hands actually picks up the close combat that the Urshifu is dropping. So he does still have a way to be dishing out some powerful fighting type damage. So it's just going to be a difference in play style. But like for myself, I look at the Urshifu set of the regular one with Detect, Surging Strikes, Aqua Jet, and Close Combat. I am not looking at any of those moves being like, oh yeah, I have a free drop for Ice Spinner here. And he has Ice Spinner and Substitute.
Yeah, right? He's got 6 move syndrome right now because there's no Aqua Jet and there's no Close Combat either. But I like that he doesn't have Aqua Jet because it feels like a lot of times, like usually you would have thought, oh, there's a Tailwind setter, so you don't need Aqua Jet because you're going to be fast. But he doesn't have Tailwind on. He has it on Roaring Moon, excuse me. So it's not Prankster. Usually you'd see the Tornadus with it, but he does have this Roaring Moon, just kind of like becoming Jamie's patented Pokemon in Generation 9 because Roaring Moon was on his team that he gave to Billa to use at Worlds, where Billa got Day 2 with Roaring Moon. And then he had the Roaring Moon Grass Ogerpon combination in Toronto. Now you have Roaring Moon and Urshifu and Articuno here. So he still has Tailwind, which means you don't need Aqua Jet because you have Surging Strikes that's going to hit faster. And like maybe this team is like really struggles into Rillaboom or really struggles into Indeedee, and that's why the Ice Spinner is so huge. Like yes, also Ice Spinner helps you against Dragon types, which we talked about before. But like I can see a world that like that Terra or the Grassy Terrain is just so annoying to deal with from Urshifu's end. That might be the best way to get rid of it. But like being able to fit Substitute too, like man, that's huge.
He's crazy. It's crazy.
The Terra Ground is so interesting too. So Articuno makes sense. It's a competitive user, right? A lot of times we talk about Empoleon or Milotic as, oh, what would you want to use? And Galarian Articuno, I think it's actually faster than those two. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But the Rocky Helmet means you probably invest fully in defenses, and then your damage only comes after a couple of Calm Minds. But the freezing glare, you got the chance at flinching. So if you have like a +2 freezing glare that hits both opponents, like you're hitting them hard, and also you're not missing Rock Slide, right? So it's a very interesting tech. I'm just trying to think what the Terra Ground in specific was for. Like unless he has some really bad matchups into Heatran, right? It's freezing glare. It should be a psychic attack if I'm remembering.
I mean, with a ground type, you body Heatran, you body Hisuian Art.
Yeah.
It could be dealing some good damage in quite a few Pokemon out there. So I definitely don't dislike it. I just think it's a little
I imagine he probably, we could talk to him, but like I imagine he probably didn't terrestrialize Articuno as often as some of the other like I think the Iron Hands and Golden Go and Roaring Moon were probably the ones that were the most terrestrialized, right? Just seeing how the team plays out. And then maybe in a pinch, like Articuno goes from being weak to electric to immune to electric is another defensive value out of the Terra Ground.
Yeah. Like, I feel like having that potential ground coverage, because it is the only ground coverage on the team, I think it's really, really strong. Pressure, Hisuian Arc, Golden Go, the other one that I just said 30 seconds ago that I can't remember. So it's nice, and it's also nice to just always threaten it. So your opponent can't be like, oh, this Pokemon's safe. Like, you do have to commit your Terra type to it, which is always it feels bad when you're having to commit to the Terra Blast for that type. But at the same time, like, always having that pressure means that you can't be too safe, especially since a lot of the Pokemon that dislike ground right now, notably, I remember the Pokemon Heatran and Hizui and Arcanine, they don't just dislike the ground type, like, they hate it.
You
Like,
can't stand it.
they shrivel up and get KO'd, you know? It's bad. Bad out there.
Ooh, I mean, well, here are some of the other things here. Francesco Rossini getting 21st with the Basque Legion. You see this spot here? Because it doesn't even have I'm looking right. Yeah, there's the Tornadus. Okay, so it's Tornadus. Wait, no, but Tornadus doesn't have Rain Dance for it. So Tornadus is Tailwind, Icy Wind, Bleak Wind, Storm, and Protect. So I thought maybe you have the Torn to have Rain Dance, and then super strong adaptability Wave Crashes. But no, he's not even using Rain on this team. Francesco, it's just straight up raw Wave Crashes in last respects.
You got to scroll down a little bit farther for the real spice. We have Hizui, Zoroark, and Enamorus on the same team next to your Moonroom combo. We also have Okidoki Enamorus, Furigraph Snorlax on the same team. Like,
okay,
there is some heat down here.
That is downright like insufferable. From credit to Andres Mora with this Zoroark, because like I hate the illusion thing that Zoroark has, right? And so obviously it's a huge deal that like it's a ghost type. So you can't fake it out. So if you make it look like it's Cresselia or something next to the Ursaluna, or vice versa, like you just fake out right into a ghost type. And I've literally been there. Like I've been on Showdown before, and I've asked my opponent. I've been like, wait, I was like, wait, why didn't fake out work? And like they said like Zoroark, and I was like, oh my god, I just lose the game on turn one. I'm like, dang, you got me there. So this team is disgusting, actually, to look at it. The choice specs, Enamorus also, like, oh my god, I gotta give this a shot. This is awesome.
I feel like I've seen like somebody post like a Showdown log that was like, what didn't fake out work? And it was literally Hizui and Zoroark.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it was. But like
it wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last time that a Zoroark was annoying to me.
Yeah, we hate Zoroark around these parts. Just kidding. I actually haven't fallen for that, but I actually have also not gone up against it. So
well, that's the thing. It's such a low usage Pokemon. Even the original version of it, like, it's so low usage that like the only outcome is you looking stupid. There's no other outcome, because like you at all times have no idea which Pokemon is actually which Pokemon at the start of turn one of a game. So like you're always over predicting. What if this one actually is the Cresselia, and I go for the Shadow Ball, but now he's immune to it because he's normal Ghost. Like, the big thing before with the Dark type version was you'd be immune, or you'd be resisting the Shadow Ball. But now this time with the straight up synergy of your Moonroom, Ursaluna, Cresselia, both being immune to fighting normal and Ghost with this Hisuian Zoroark synergy, like, that's pretty neat.
A skill issue, frankly. Just don't fall for it, and then you're
it has
good,
U-turn,
right?
you can U-turn into the Ursaluna once Trick Room is set up, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it do be cool. It do be cool. The teams, yeah. I feel like a lot of the other things, like we talked about the cool things, but a lot of the things are repeating because we are kind of getting to that part of the format, especially with the Pokemon that we have right now in the game, where there is the problem of a lot of repetition.
For sure. It's we're getting to a very centralized point where I don't know if this is just this specific format issue or just a general Pokemon issue, but if the do we have usage on? I'm just gonna scroll all the way to the bottom. No, we don't have the usage stats. I thought we might have had a chance at it. but like it just very clearly there are six or seven Pokemon that are supremely more valuable than the rest of the field, and you don't have to run all six of them on your team. Like, we're not at that point. It's not chalk levels. But I will say, like, people aren't really digging deeper than maybe that 15th most used Pokemon, right? Like, maybe you'll pull your team of six from maybe the top 15 on Pikalytics, like, and you give credit to people like they use Volcarona and use, Hisuian Zoroark and whatever, but for the most part, they are the outlier to the regular situation that everybody's probably using the same 15 Pokemon in some certain aspects.
Yeah, but hey, that is a moot issue in a couple of weeks when the DLC comes out, right?
Oh, you're so right. It's gonna get better when Incineroar comes out. The Pokemon viability is going to get larger when the most oppressive Pokemon of all time re-enters the format. So true, Bessie.
So true. It'll be interesting because I feel like too that I think first off, Incineroar is going to be good when it comes out. The biggest thing lacking so far with the DLC information released is the movesets and the base stat totals of the Pokemon coming out. I don't think they would change it for something like Incineroar for the base stat total, but there is the possibility of something like Parting Shot getting removed from Incineroar, which I do actually think that would hinder things a little bit. I still think it would be heavily used because I still think...
Because you just put U-turn and Assault Vest on it, yeah.
But I think that Parting Shot was still huge, and there is also going to be things like Upper Hand to stop priority with Fake Out. Like, there could be other answers to Incineroar into things to where it'll be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it'll be at the 91% usage. I think it was in like I think I went back into the research once, and there were some of the Player Cup top cuts, and then some of the Series 12 events as well. That like Incineroar was legitimately like 87%, 91% of like top 16 or top 32s and things. And I don't think it's going to be that high, but like for it to be at Fluttermane status, like I absolutely think that is a possibility that it can get to 70, 72, 73% usage across an entire field.
And maybe this is because I started playing VGC in a time where Incineroar was already everywhere, and maybe I'm just kind of like used to it. It was still just kind of more so a supportive Pokemon that could do a little bit of damage, so it didn't feel as bad of a Pokemon to be at a higher percentage in comparison to something like an Urshifu. Because the Incineroar felt very much more so supportive. Like an Iron Hand, you come in, you can Fake Out, you can also get Intimidate. So you still had to be playing around the Incineroar. It was still a very strong pick, a very strong Pokemon. But I didn't feel like it was as... I feel like there's a bar for what Pokemon you can and can't use in a format based on the other Pokemon that are used. If you can't figure out how to have it on a team where Urshifu exists, you can't have that Pokemon. I think Incineroar, that bar is a lot lower. A lot more things are still fine because you can pair them with the Incineroar to kind of enable them. Urshifu, I kind of feel like more so raises that bar to where it eliminates a lot of those more lower tier Pokemon. So maybe that's a little bit more of a hot take out there. But despite the high usage, I've never hated Incineroar as much as a couple of other Pokemon out there.
That's a fascinating position to take, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't even think it's a hot take. People would probably, depending on their aisle and their opinion, they might agree with you. But I am definitely on the other side of the aisle, is that I personally feel is that when supportive Pokemon get to that high usage rate, I actually think it's way worse when a format is centralized around supportive Pokemon than it is than when a format's around offensive Pokemon. Because like if there's a format where in the top 6, even if 2, 3, and 4 of a format is Amoonguss, Incineroar, and Tornadus, I think that's way worse than if 2, 3, 4 was Urshifu, Iron Hands, Fluttermane. Because those supported Pokemon are there for a reason because of how good they are at neutralizing your opponent. So like if Amoonguss or Tornadus were ever at 70% usage, I think that would be way more disastrous than if Incineroar or Fluttermane or Urshifu at 70%. But that's just like our different perspectives on it, because like Urshifu is a problem mainly because of Unseen Fist, but in general it's a problem. And then Tornadus enables that problem because of Prankster Tailwind and Prankster Rain Dance, where if we had Regulation D and E with no genies, right? With obviously it'd be hard to do since Urshifu's a legendary, so you allow legendaries in all at the same time. But like the genies came back in part 2, and right, and like maybe the Tapus came in part 1 instead. Like we just swapped that around. Like I don't think Urshifu's is at 55% usage if Tornadus is not there right next to it to click Rain Dance and Tailwind.
Yeah, you're not necessarily wrong. I think too, for myself, it's linked with a particular play style. I like slower, more balanced games. I don't like the one-hit KOs. I don't like the fast, I'll set Tailwind, I'm a Surging Strikes your stuff, and then you're cooked type thing. When the format calls for it, I'll play into it, don't get me wrong. But I liked having, like, when I started playing, I was right away into more balancey type of stuff. I liked having my Incineroar and my Amoonguss and Intimidate cycling and kind of slowing things down, slowing the pace of the game down to where then it was kind of a little bit more fair. It was longer games, there were more grindy games, but I personally like that a little bit better. So I feel like a lot of the sentiments about how how Incineroar is coming back does kind of get linked to how people like to be playing the game as well. But I am very intrigued with how it will exist in a Terastallization type world, especially with where Urshifu is right now. Because then I feel like there's a lot of things that can really heavily pressure an Incineroar. Not only the Surging Strikes from Urshifu, but Landorus is still around, could be doing a lot of damage with Stompy Tantrum. He's doing Arcanine can pressure it. Water Pond can pressure it. To where if you're then forced into Terastallization with the Incineroar, that's now Terastallization off the board and something else can pressure. So it'll be quite intriguing to see whereabouts that kind of ends up.
Well, you say that as if we didn't live in a world where when Incineroar was the number 1 Pokemon, number 2 and 3 were Kyogre and Groudon. And it was still number 1 when in theory it should lose to Kyogre and Groudon, right? So I think if let me put it this way. If Incineroar keeps Parting Shot, I don't think it cares one bit about Terastallizing. Because he doesn't care if you turn to a Ghost type or a Water type or a Flying type or a Ground type or a Fire type, whatever. He's just going to Parting Shot and swap out on you. If it does lose Parting Shot, then it will be more relevant that the Flare Blitz is going to be into a resisted Water type, or the knockoff is going to be into a Terra Dark or something like that. So this is all contingent on if he keeps Parting Shot. Because if it still has that move, it's never, I won't say never, it's hardly ever attacking anyway, because it's always just clicking Parting Shot, so it doesn't matter what typing you are.
Yeah, the Parting Shot thing is definitely, I think, going to be the biggest thing, because they've definitely shown that they're not afraid to kind of readjust things a little bit. So kind of what Incineroar gets access to, I think, will be huge. I still think it would be absolutely hilarious if it and Iron Hands get upper hand, considering that is a move that suppresses priority moves.
And then all the Incineroars have to speed creep the other Incineroars because fighting is good into dark, right? So by upper hand beats yours.
Yeah. And then Iron Hands gets it too. Like, I just think it'd be a fun world, you know?
Oh my god.
I might hate that world, but it'll be something.
Everyone
hates Incineroar for the wrong reasons. Let's make them hate it for the right reasons, okay?
That's fair. That's your campaign.
I'm just asking for the pain of the VGC format for the next while now, because this one's sticking around for a bit. Okay.
What a time. We're almost there, Sierra. Almost.
We'll be there.
The next new year. Next week we can start team building and stuff for Portland, but the new year, Regulation F, doesn't start till January 4th.
I gotta start hunting a shiny Litten so I can have my shiny Incineroar. terrible shiny, by the way.
Oh, you're
but
crazy.
I can have
it's a great
I can
shiny.
have it to compete in Portland with.
No, it's a great shiny. You're out of your mind. That's an awesome, like the barbershop shiny.
Terrible. I am just saying, because the original Incineroar is like the black fur with like the red details. How sick would it have looked if instead of swapping out the black fur, they swapped out the red details? So it was black and white with the fire belt.
Nice. That would have been nice. Yeah. I like that.
Hire me. I'm honestly, you can call me a hater. I think I'm just right. Honestly, I think I just know what's better.
Imagine they hire you after all your defamatory statements you've made about Quaxley and all these other. They're like, you know what? She's onto something. Let's get her in the office.
So I would prefer to say they're not defamatory statements as opposed to I'm just spitting facts. If you're looking at the 3 starters, Quaxley is the worst. If you're looking at the shiny Incineroar form, the one that I pitched is just better. Like, I don't think it's defamatory to say that it's just wrong.
Your Honor, my client is clearly spitting facts, and this case needs to be dismissed.
So true, best.
Oh my god! All right, can we talk about Regulation F real quick? Can we go on to that next topic? So, we know it's going to start on January 4th because January 5th, I think, is Portland or something like that, right? I don't know how that's worked, if that's exactly how it works out, but whatever. We know it's starting for Portland's intent. So just because the DLC drops next week doesn't mean you can start using Incineroar on the ladder. You're going to have to wait a couple of weeks. And I think, Sierra, we don't have to go too much into it because we don't know all the new Pokemon and how the meta is going to be. We have multiple episodes in the future to talk about the meta. But I think the one thing that we have to talk about, that we always talk about with the Regulation D, is people always make the tweets and they try to bring Incineroar to San Antonio and they always say, oh, it's in the game, why can't I use it in Regulation D? Because you never could, you never have been able to, and you're never going to be able to. There is precedent set to it, okay, buddy? Like, Incineroar is not going to be legal for San Antonio, so do not tweet at Arcanine about it.
I think you're a bigger hater than I am.
In this subject. Yeah.
I feel like the Pokemon is not the biggest issue. It's the items, because I feel like there has been precedent in the past to where it gets like a little murky. So I feel like a lot of people do know about the Incineroar thing. I still think the new regulation will be interesting. I think what is most notable about the new regulation, besides the Twitter sphere going to be blowing up about question about San Antonio, is this format's actually lasting a little bit longer than our past formats have. And the way that the timing works out kind of looks like it'll be set for the format after our Regulation G, EFG, Regulation G, to be restricted for Worlds.
Oh, is that what you think it's going to be?
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. So for anyone who hasn't seen, Regulation F, which is this DLC Part 2, ends on end of April, let's just say, which is after EUIC. So that means May onward, we're going to have a new format, and we can have our guesses and stuff. And I don't think that the Worlds, the GS Cup format will be just a 4-month world, like, rotating format. I think they have typically done it as the full year, right? So you had 2016 and then 2019, which was broken up into 3 different formats, but restricteds were legal for all 3 formats. And then you had 2022, which, because of COVID, was exclusively GS Cup in Series 12. So I if I was a betting man, I would not put that format would be a GS Cup format. I don't know what they'll do, because it's not like there's a DLC Part 3 that we're unaware of, right? Is it like, do we know if there are Pokemon that are not going to be included in DLC Part 2? Or is every Pokemon in existence coming December 14th?
Well, it's not everyone in existence. There is
maybe
going to
that's
be a
what, like, April 30th, they make an update to Pokemon Home, and now all 1,008 Pokemon are in Scarlet and Violet.
No, because they didn't with Sword and Shield. So the most notable points I think about the DLC in our next regulation is I still do not think there is word about things like walking wake, because
I think
of
it should be
determining
legal
things.
in the
I
next
don't
set.
know, because like I feel like we keep having the conversation. It might be something that does get saved for the next rotation of things, but I don't think it is
I mean,
specifically been said that it's legal
I
next
think
time
the only reason it
around.
wasn't legal was the availability to get it, and because the Raikou and Entei forms and Virizion and Terrakion forms are not released, right? Like they're not releasing till the second part of the DLC. So I think that was the major reason why it wasn't part of a format more than saving it for a future format.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I still think it could be interesting because they could definitely just kind of screw everyone over and just say it's for the next one. The other, which I think this is pretty far fetched, is yeah, they showed the starters in the next DLC. There is nothing to like. What if? Because like the current starters, I guess the current starters they don't have a Pokedex, but they did have them legal. I was like, they could just like hold off on those, which would then be Wolf Flick's birthday wish come true
Yeah.
for the next 4 months at least. But I do think that's pretty unlikely. They could also just do not quite a GS Cup, but having one restricted come out
So I
for
was
the next
thinking
format.
what was it, the Paldea prologue where just Miraidon and Koraidon were legal,
Could also be that.
right? So I think so. My two thoughts are either it is Regulation F plus just Miraidon and Koraidon because marketing promotion, those are the two heads of Scarlet and Violet, whatever, or we have not had a national Dex format yet. So I'm talking 2015, 2018. So that's where every Pokemon that's not a restricted is legal, right? So even the sub legendaries and whatever. So I think if Pokemon Home does get an update by April that has every Pokemon that is like available to be transferred from Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Go or whatever, I think that world stretch could be the national Dex format, and then post Worlds we do a whole year of legendaries or of the GS Cup of like, Sun Moon Ultra, like first time around it's just Miraidon Koraidon, and then it's one restricted of any kind, and then it's two restricteds, and leading up to the next World 2025 World Championship.
The only like offhand issue I see with that is because as of right now, Scarlet and Violet have been out for just over a year. Whereas then if we do the World Championships and then do like a year,
Well, it's
then
always the third year. GS Cup is always the third year.
would that be the third year?
It was the third year of Gen 6. It was the third year of Sun and
I
Moon,
just
and it
mean
was
like
the
we're
third
already
year
at that
of Sword and
rotation,
Shield.
or 2025 would be third year.
Yeah,
Oh
because
wait, I guess it is.
we're more than half a year away from Worlds right now. We're predicting into the future.
Yeah.
We're so far away right now that
Does that mean after 2025 Worlds we're gonna have another like 5-month break while we wait for the new game to be
where I
coming
have to
out
go
and all
play
that
I have to
stuff?
go play Pokemon Go at a regional because there's no VGC.
Oh, wait a second. I didn't realize we were already talking about that point. Ugh.
It's a vicious cycle, this world we live in.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have to worry about it this time around. I kind of think we're going to be having to worry about it this time
That's so
around.
far away, Sierra. Let's just appreciate the now, Let's not worry
Let's
about
just-
the future right now.
Yeah, 'cause there's people that can't appreciate the now because there's Incineroar coming out, alright? So, just saying. And there's also people that can't appreciate the now because they lose at their Pokedoku puzzles.
Oh my god! Don't get me started, Sierra.
Oh, that was the whole point of bringing it up.
All right, so let's talk about this. It's a fun app, fun website. It's called Pokedoku, and like I've seen it in other things. Like I've seen it in baseball. They do it where like there's like, oh, this player was a Dodger and Yankee, and you could put any person that was a Dodger and a Yankee, and you want the goal is to have as unique of a score as possible. So if anyone doesn't know, follow them on Twitter, Pokedoku, Pokedoku, and their website, Pokedoku.com. And so I started playing every day. I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest. Like I tweeted out and like my score, and I don't know, people like it, I guess. Everyone's been playing. So I started giving it a shot. And so are you familiar? Have you played have you dabbled in the Pokedoku world, the puzzles?
So I played once, and it asked me for a flying steel type, and the first thing I thought of was Corviknight. But the whole I need unique answers. I'm like, Corvisquire. Submit that. You can only answer 9 times. There's 9 boxes. You can submit 9 times. Submit Corvisquire, and it had the audacity to tell me that it wasn't a flying steel type. They're right, by the way, but like still the audacity
to be correct.
So I got it wrong. I lost. This is the first time that I played the puzzle. I got the first answer wrong immediately, and I was just done after that, honestly.
I think that's fair. So I do like it every day. I think it's fun. I think that if they are listening, we're fans of the Pokedoku app every day. I just think there's some problems with it. So the first inherent issue, and I don't want to be that guy, but when they have like fan submissions or like maybe it's a popular Pokemon content creator or something that does it, sometimes those submissions they're not proofreading what the content creator comes up with. They're just letting them do whatever combination they want, because sometimes there's only one option, and the whole point is to have a unique of a Sudoku board as possible. So like for example, today, as of recording, today's category was a mythical flying type. So I put in like, okay, I can't think of anything else besides Shaman Sky. So like I don't want to sit here and because I want to answer quick. I don't want to just like be a jerk and spend 15 minutes and try to be super. I want to just like off the cuff think of stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'll just put in Shaman Sky, 100%, because it's the only option. So of course 100% of people put Shaman Sky because it's the only Pokemon you can put in that category. And it happened a couple days ago. It happened last week with Fire Steel. And the literal only option is Heatran. So, like, you have to put Heatran, who's 100% showing there. And I'm like, what's the point of trying to be unique when some of the categories are just not, they're just not double checked sometimes to be like, oh, we can't, like, go back to the creator and be like, hey, can you choose another typing combination? Because there needs to be multiple options.
Yeah, that definitely, especially too, with the whole point of it, like, is to be unique. Like, definitely understand, like, why that is frustrating. Especially too, like, realistically, there's over 1,000 Pokemon. There's so many different answers. So just don't pick one of the ones where there's only one answer.
Right. Instead of Fire Steel, do, fire, I don't know, fighting, right? You got all those starters and all those times. So, like, what are people going to say? Are they going to say Combuskin? They're going to say Blaziken? You're going to say Emboar? You're going to say, Infernape? Like, that one would be way better than the Fire Steel. But, like, the other thing that's killing me, I hope if Pokedoku's listed, please. I'm a fan of the product. Please, please, please. We got to get rid of forms counting as different Pokemon. It's unacceptable. We have 4 Gourgeist forms that count for different unique percentages. Like today's category was a ghost type from Kalos. Like, that is not cool that you could put, Gourgeist small versus Gourgeist big versus Gourgeist, whatever is like changing the percentages. Because if like all 4 of those forms, I think it's at 3 or 4 Gourgeist forms, I don't remember. If they're all 3 or 4% each, well then no, Gourgeist is actually 12%. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's not fair to have the different sizes be counting as different percentages of uniqueness.
I feel like that's just a skill issue. You got to pick on which form is going to be the most uniquely picked amongst the Gourgeist forms that people gravitate towards.
It's not a skill issue, because I will give you today's example of Dark and Ghost. So off the top of your head, can you name Dark and Ghost Pokemon?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I'll tell you the answer. There are only 2 Pokemon that are Dark and Ghost. There is Sableye and Spiritomb. If you remember back in the day, famously they had no weakness because there was no fairy typing. So now they're weak. They have 1 weakness, and it's fairy. So you would imagine Spiritomb and Sableye would each probably be close to 50% usage, or they would at least both make up 100% of the usage. But they don't, because Mega Sableye counts as an option. So they're actually all split like 33% each, because some people are trying to be cute and put Mega Sableye as their dark and ghost type, and I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Mega Sableye is the same thing. I can get it for type changing megas, right? Like Mega Gyarados, who goes to water dark instead of water flying. I think that's fine. But Salamence and Mega Salamence should be one entry. Rayquaza and Mega Rayquaza should be one entry. Kangaskhan and Mega Kangaskhan should be like, you get what I'm saying? Like, that's you're not rewarding uniqueness. You're rewarding like kind of like circumventing the rules of the game, if you understand what I'm saying, by picking like mid-sized Gourgeist instead of Gourgeist. Like, you weren't actually unique. You were just like kind of cheating the system to get a better score.
I feel like that could be really easily countered, though. You know how?
How?
Getting better, frankly.
actually, the worst. Says the person that thought Corvisquire was a steel type, okay?
Can't go there.
Sorry I went there.
I'm a TCG player. Pokemon only have, like, majority of the time one type where I come from, okay?
Yeah, it makes no sense half the time.
Exactly.
Psychic type Whimsicott. Alright, I'll play along.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's where I grew up. That's
all.
And
then it's like, here's my psychic type that's actually a fairy and it's weak to dark. And I'm like, okay, TPC, or I don't know, whoever makes the card game, I see how it is. But the other point I had on Pokedoku is sometimes, first of all, I don't see why you can't put the same Pokemon twice. I don't understand why that's like I understand in regular Sudoku form why you can't put one in two different categories in the same column, right? So that's where they get it from. But when they make puzzles and everybody makes mistakes. So sometimes if you make a puzzle where there's only one possible answer, like Steel, was it Steel or Bug Mythical? I think Bug Mythical was the only option, was Genesect. And I had used in a prior spot in that row a Unova Mythical, which was Genesect. So I didn't read through or whatever. So I used Genesect and I'm going to, all right, Bug Mythical. The only thing I have is Genesect. And I type G and I'm not allowed to answer it. Which is fine in regular Sudoku because I have a pen and an eraser, or a pencil and an eraser. I can change my answers. On Pokedoku, you can't change your answers. If you get something wrong, you're stuck with it. So either don't have categories that only have one answer, which is the easiest solution, or let me put Genesect in both slots. I'm clearly going to get points taken away because it's not a unique answer if everyone else is putting it. So allow me to get less points if that makes sense. But just soft locking the puzzle because you had an answer that only had one possible slot and I used that answer in a previous square. I feel like that's not fair.
All right. I do have a legitimate answer, though, for how to solve the issue, okay? Are you ready for this one?
It's not just get good?
No, I promise you it's not,
okay,
right?
I'm listening.
Are you ready? Simply, Pokedoku, let OHKO design a puzzle. Obviously, you can tell that Joe Brown is very, very passionate about this. He'll put in the research. He'll make an absolutely amazing puzzle. I'm just saying, let him design one.
I won't use Fire Steel. Sorry, yeah. V. I love V, but that day I was so happy for V when she put it, and it's like, come on, you can't put Heatran, dog. You're killing me.
Yeah, so there you go. And then it's like the double soars, like a 2-for-1. Because not only are you getting a free puzzle that someone who's very passionate about is pouring their energy into, also, if it's dog water, you can make fun of him and dispel everything that he's saying right about now. That is 2 birds, 1 stone. I simply do not see how that doesn't get better.
That's fair. I would love the opportunity to Pokedoku if you're listening. A big fan. I would love for the chance to have an OHKO submitted puzzle. I would put the effort in. Sierra's not lying. I would spend hours trying to find the craziest strategy there. And it was funny when I was playing earlier today, and I was complaining about Shaman Sky. My brother's like, "Why don't you just put Arceus flying?" And I was like, because that's the thing. The Arceus typings don't count. It's just the normal one. So we're gonna have 4 different Gourgeists, but we're not gonna allow the 18 Arceus to change our uniqueness, right? The system isn't kind of spread evenly.
You can tell he's putting thought into this. I feel like this is furthermore just like, yes, bring on OHKO to design a puzzle, all right?
Oh, that would be so cool.
It'll be good. But we should wrap this up so you can send that pitch over to them. But before that, we do have our question of the day. Thank you so much to our Discord. There's a lot of great questions coming out. I do think, though, we want to go with split seconds question, considering this is about the DLC coming out next week. And I think this is an awesome question. This question is, since the DLC is coming out next week, what do you think Terapago's ability will be, and will it have an extreme impact on the future meta? I think this is especially interesting because we've gotten to see with the anime and I think other arts that the Terapagos has two forms. The one looks frankly frail and ill, not really cool and majestic at all, like the true Terapagos form, probably related to an ability. So, kind of, what do we think of this?
Okay, so there's so many worlds we can go down this. So this is a great question. The first thing we got to clear up, we got to ask Katie, is I thought it's Terapagos, like the Galapagos Islands. So we're gonna have to get some clarification on how we say this name instead of Terapagos. Terapagos, Terapagos. We'll figure that out.
I'm just saying, I'm about to upset a lot of people because I don't think I can call it anything other than Terapagos. So
I think like Galapagos Islands. That's what I think. But my first answer, like you said, gun to your head, just say something. What do you think its ability is? I would say adaptability, because it's got the rainbow thing, and like you turn to a fire type, you get the double. You turn to a steel type, you get the double power. But like, okay, because we like to make legendaries broken in DLC, so people spend money on it. Like, you know, the Calrexes and Archiefs and stuff. What if it's like the all for one, the Calrex abilities where it's unnerve plus another thing? So what if it's like unnerve plus adaptability or something like that? Like, I don't know what its ability is going to be, but it's going to have two of them in one.
I 100% do agree that'll be the 2-in-1. Not even just looking at the Calyraxes, but if you look at the Ogre Pawns, each one of the forms had a different ability before terastallization, in which case it had a unique Terra type, the fact that it had the mask to then get embody aspect. So I think Terapagos is going to be related on that. I do think it is going to be fixed into the Rainbow Terra form, whatever that ends up being called, whether it's Rainbow or not. I think it'll only be able to go into the Rainbow Terra, and it's going to have an ability that accompanies that. I actually don't think something like adaptability will be a bad shout. I do think that they'll probably do something that's not adaptability, just simply so they can have an ability that's called something different to kind of be like, oh, this is special to Terapagos. But I do actually think something along those lines would make a lot of sense. And honestly, something like a nerve for the base ability. I think you're kind of spitting here. Like, it actually does make
because
a lot
how
of sense.
often it didn't really come up that often with, you know, Shadow Rider and Ice Rider, but it was a factor. Like, it's just how the meta played out. The berries weren't as relevant that you couldn't eat them, because usually you're getting one shot anyway because of the you know, chilling day boost. Or the Grim Day boost, so it didn't actually matter too much. But it's whatever it's going to be broken.
I do think what could work based off of the fact that like there is the shell or whatnot, whether this is for the base ability or like once it evolves, not evolves, but like transforms.
Yeah.
Like once it terras, I do think that once it terras will be something more boosting. But I feel like even for the base ability, could be the other one, either or. It could be something related to kind of like multi-scale, but specifically like Rainbow Shell or something.
Or what about
along
Shell
the
Armor?
lines.
Like, you can't get crit.
Like something like that, where like the hitting into it doesn't do as much damage. So then it kind of protects it while it's getting set up to then go into its terastallized form. I think would be a good call. Whether it's like you hit into it, you do less damage into it, and then it gets a boost to something. Whether it's just you tank the hit anyway, something along the lines. And then once it terastallizes, it then gets like the adaptability. So I don't know, it gets a stat boost, everything, or like something cool happens.
Now, do you think it's going to be a fast or slow Pokemon? Because slow would be a turtle. However, it's like the DLC seller busted Pokemon. Like, do you think they're going to make it fast?
I think it'll be average AF. in terms of the speed. Especially, too, if there is any sort of a boost coming out, adaptability, like the fact it can tank a hit type vibe, which I've already been pitching. I feel like it would make more sense, because if you could tank a hit while also being speedy, I think it'd be a little too strong. And I think just looking at the Pokemon, it kind of screams more that it should be defensively and special defensively strong, as opposed to something that's speedy and outputting a lot of damage.
Yeah, I would hope it's going to be a slow Pokemon that I can use and abuse under Trick Room, selfishly.
No, it's going to be base 80. It's going to be base 80.
The worst fate in the world is like base 68 to 82 speed or something. That's the worst fate you could ever have as a Pokemon.
It'll be 80. Trust me. Sources, trust me, bro.
It better get Aqua Jet, or it better get Extreme Speed.
I just look at Terrapagos and it screams, I'm going to be slow, but not slow enough to be good.
Is that how it talks?
It does,
It's got a really high voice like that?
Yeah, 100%.
What is it? Do you think it's going to be all of the types at once, or only when it terastallizes? So, like, in the Pokedoku setting, like, what type? Is it just going to be mono water and becomes rainbow? Or is it going to exist as all 18 types? I'm asking the real questions here.
Looking at, because the Terrapagos does have the form change, and the first one doesn't actually have the complete shell with all the types. So I do think, even just looking at that it isn't going to have all of the types until it does terastallize into the rainbow type, which I think then...
So what are you calling right now? What is its base typing? Is it just water? Is it water rock, water steel, water normal?
I feel like water makes sense because it's a turtle, but I kind of just want to say straight normal type.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, is there a world where they just make it a normal type?
Yeah, like water normal makes sense because it is a turtle after all, but if we're saying like it has to be locked into rainbow, it turns into everything, I feel like on a straight lore aspect, normal just kind of makes the most sense.
That does make a lot of sense, yeah.
Especially because normal isn't super effective against anything, and like it just makes too much sense, right?
Yeah, this is again another reason 57 why Game Freak needs to hire you.
I know, I'm actually just too good. One day I'll be deleting all of this footage because I will have been hired on for Game Freak because they've realized that I actually am just so smart with all of it.
In retrospect, she was right about Quaxley.
Yeah. Maybe her delivery wasn't quite right, but she was kind of spitting. Saying. Someone has to say it, right?
Oh, God. What a day, Sierra. It's Wolf Glick's birthday. He released a video today, which I was like a part of for 2 seconds, which was pretty cool. But, we were worried about Incineroar coming back. We're going to miss all the news by the time this episode comes out, so we all look silly anyway for the last 2 hours because we're lacking information that the rest of our listeners are going to have. We got 2 hours out of nothing in this recording. Like, it's been quite a day.
I have to wake up early to record for the trailer. Like, we see, too, like, you're missing all the information. There is actually a legitimate chance with this trailer they don't show us anything of use.
They might just show, like, the Entei and Terrakion. Maybe.
It might not even. They could show 80% of the same footage that they showed the creators that went to their screening, and then just add, like, 1 or 2 new things, and then just be done with it.
Put an Ed Sheeran song in it.
The game comes out in a week. Like, they're not going to spoil the game.
Yeah, I don't think Entei and Terrakion would be spoilers. I think that'd be hype promotion. Because we don't know the story. We don't know what's going on. Like, I think okay, all right, here's your question. Here's my last question for you before we head out. Is it more likely, and our listeners are already going to know the answers to this, so I'm going to sound stupid. Is it more likely that tomorrow morning we know what the Rainbow Terra does, or they reveal Entei and Terrakion's paradox forms?
I think the Entei and Terrakion, and actually the more I've been thinking about it, I think that actually could be it. Not just because it's like, what else could they release? I don't think they'll release the rainbow thing. But realistically, why else would you want to release a trailer a week before it comes out when there's already been so much promotional materials? Because they're going to be having something start right away. So the 14th, I believe, is the Thursday.
Yeah.
So the 16th should be the Saturday. I think in the trailer, they'll show some generic gameplay. Oh my god, so hype. Show the Entei and the Terrakion, and then announce a raid for the 16th promoting those new forms. So it promotes the DLC on it. You have
that's
to download.
early. Wow.
Yes.
That's good
but
marketing, but
yes, but why else would they announce it so soon, right? And like, why
Good point.
announce it right before the DLC comes out if you're not going to have an event to capitalize off of it?
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, I think it's that. I'm gonna look like such a genius if I'm right, and both of us are gonna look so stupid if we're wrong.
I like how only you look good, but both of us, I get dragged down with you if you're wrong.
Yeah,
It's a real team effort.
Well, do you have
here.
a prediction on why they're showing the trailer tomorrow?
I think I do. I think they're gonna tell us what the terror is.
That's a big one.
I could be wrong, but I don't think they want you to find out 4 hours into the DLC why this DLC exists. I think they're going to tell us like whatever the feature is.
I think that Rainbow is so big to the DLC though. Like
that's why you have to market it. The Rainbow is clearly more important than Entei and Terrakion. So people still don't know why they're buying the DLC.
That's the plot though. They didn't release the Ogerpon plot beforehand. The whole Rainbow thing is the plot.
I'm asking what its ability is. I'm essentially asking what the game mechanic
because that's
is.
part of the plot. The whole Rainbow Terra type. That is the whole hidden treasure of Area Zero.
But we knew Ogerpon had different masks.
Barely. We knew barely anything coming about it. We've already seen both Terrapego's form and know that there's a 19th Rainbow type, which is more than we ever knew about Ogerpon.
I'm messaging Katie right now because I can't stand for Terrapagos. I think it's Terrapagos. I am on the Terrapagos train. Let us know in the comments what you think it is.
Let us know who's right. We're gonna go actually ask on who's right, but yeah, this is a pretty good thing to wrap things off. Of course, we're gonna look silly because the trailer's coming out, but regardless, keep this in mind when you're listening to us now. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the OHKO Podcast. Make sure to follow on the respective channel that you're listening to. Follow on Twitter for updates, as well join the Discord. We ask for question of the week, we talk about teams, and work on our OHKO team of the week there. As well, just talk about the games. We have our own little community over there. So it is super great, and it's a fun time. Thank you so much for listening in. Hope you enjoyed the DLC trailer, and we'll see you real soon.